Useless info.
Hello, this is Max.
This is Walt.
And you are listening to Useless Info Inc. with Anti-Seminole, a rock album podcast.
The ABCs of rock and metal.
That is right, and we're in the B's right now, and David Bowie is the guy we're doing today, the immortal, legendary David Bowie. So the album is going to be larger.
Yeah.
Now, one caveat we've got here is, with David Bowie, he's got so many amazing albums, and Walt, you and I had long discussions about which one we were going to do for this podcast.
Which was very difficult.
Yes. And at some point, it was like we were discussing it more than... It took more time to figure out which album than to actually do this.
Than actually do it,
So basically, the choice is arbitrary, is I think what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
Maybe someday we got to go album to album with David Bowie. Especially if you guys want to hear that, you let us know. Because if there's interest, we'll do it.
Sure.
So we were selected Larger.
Larger.
An interesting album in many ways.
The third in the Berlin Trilogy.
Yes, 1979. A little bit of context. The Berlin Trilogy. So basically, Bowie in the 70s was living in L.A. He was living the rock and roll lifestyle with all the substance abuse that entails.
Yep.
He went to Berlin to escape, kind of get away, chill out. He met different people. He was being influenced by different kinds of music, stuff that was going on in Berlin.
Didn't he also go with Iggy Pop? Didn't they go together?
Iggy Pop was there, around the same time, right. And Brian Eno, of course.
Eno, yeah.
He was influenced by krautrock. Like that is actually what they call it. I'm not trying to be,
racist or anything.
Yeah, probably not PC now, but they did call it krautrock. Bands like Kraftwerk and Neu.
Kraftwerk.
Yes, and so one of the unifying things about these three albums is that they were composed and mostly recorded in Berlin, although this one was recorded in Switzerland. But another major...
And New York, right?
I think this one was mastered in New York.
Oh, okay, that's what it was?
Finished up or something like that. Yeah, it was recorded in Switzerland. But I think even bigger unifying factor is the influence of Brian Eno, an art student who played keyboard for Roxy Music before having his own kind of career and kind of glam music and ambient, and then he kind of came on board for these three albums and really injected some interesting creative energy.
Right.
So Bowie had all these interesting things going on, and he busted out three really amazing albums that were kind of a new creative phase for him.
Very experimental.
Very experimental. And we're taking on the third one because we kind of feel like this is the one that people don't talk about as much.
As say, Low
or Heroes. Yeah. All right, so let's get into this, Walt. Let's break open the first track here.
Fantastic Voyage.
Fantastic Voyage. Yes. What do you think about this track, Walt?
Well, I thought it was an odd opener, to be honest with you.
Why is that?
It's so mellow.
It is mellow.
It's a very mellow opening to this album.
It's mellow, yeah.
As opposed to other Bowie records.
Okay.
Different albums that he had done in the past.
Mm-hmm.
It's very lulling.
It's lush.
Yeah, very lush.
It's croony.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's got some of the best vocals on this album.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, he reaches for some highs.
It's very personal.
It's very personal. He was in Berlin. He was in West Berlin, which, of course, at the time was surrounded by East Germany, which was, of course, behind the Iron Curtain at the time. So a lot of people have talked about how that Cold War energy kind of influenced a lot of the music in the Berlin Trilogy.
And the sound of it.
Heroes,
right,
which references the wall explicitly. And I think you've got something going on in here as well, because some of the lyrics, like we just heard, that's no reason to shoot some of those missiles.
Right.
They wipe out an entire race, and I've got to write it down. And there's these great references to the depressed man.
Yeah.
Like, why do we have to live with somebody's depression?
Right.
And it's almost like it's got this Cold War feeling of like you're living on the brink of destruction.
Yeah.
And you've got depressed psychopaths with their fingers on the nuclear buttons.
Right, right.
You know, it's like it's really of that time, and I just kind of love that about it.
And I think the most effective line is, where he says, "We'll never say nothing nice again."
Yeah.
We'll never say something
really,
nice again.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It sounds like you said. The sound is so lush and so full, but when you really dive into the lyrics, it's like, wow, it's a little dark.
There are a lot of interesting
There's
things
a push
going
and pull
on.
with the darkness of his lyrics.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very, very impressive. And, it took me a while to get into this track.
Really? Why?
Just because of the way I was so off-put by it as the opening of an album.
Okay.
Personally.
Okay.
You used to, maybe a hit first or what have you. And I'm not saying that across the board. And you should know when you're listening to Bowie, he's not going to do what you expect of him at points, especially during this point in his career.
Yeah.
Because he really kind of went the other way.
He did,
with these albums. With this one especially.
Yeah. Okay, second track is African Night Flight. This is an interesting song. Well,
oh yeah.
I mean, just listen to that percussion, all these like weird sounds going, which I understand is something that Brian Eno did.
Right.
Yeah.
See, I would have expected this to be the first track.
Huh, really? Why?
Just per personal whatever.
Okay. Huh.
This would kind of grab you first.
It's very grabbing, yeah. And listen to his delivery.
It's like he's scatting.
Yeah,
he's
like
just kind of. It's like a rap scat.
Now, apparently, this song, while he was in Kenya, Bowie met some former Luftwaffe pilots from World War II.
Oh, right, I read that. Yeah,
flying for hire.
Right,
and this is kind of about them. So essentially, he's meeting former German Air Force guys
now they're
from
mercenaries
World War II.
or whatever the hell.
And it's kind of like it's trying to capture their bizarre lifestyle in living in Africa and doing this thing. And it's kind of I guess the percussion is trying to be kind of tribal or something. You know what I mean? Like, is it trying to convey that?
Right.
And then, and there's
just very frenetic.
It's frenetic. There are lyrics in here, Asante Habari, which I understand are partly Swahili, but partly nonsense, because you can just make up any nonsense when you're doing a foreign language back then. It's a weird song.
It is.
Yeah, but what do you think about it?
Well, I think it's like you said, it's very interesting, very experimental.
Yeah.
If you're not a fan of Bowie, I could see people skipping this track, going, well, on first listen, well, what is this?
Oh yeah. Yeah, totally.
He's just being, once again, Bowie the artist.
He is, yeah.
And
he's
really experimenting
himself,
with sound and with Eno, they're both stretching here. Just trying to do something different.
From what I've read, this is the one that is most Eno influenced, this album.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he had the most collaborative input on this album.
I also read that this was kind of the end of their working relationship.
Yes, this is the last one they did until, 15 years later when they did, I think, Outside together.
That's right.
Yeah, so it was a while, yeah.
Right.
So this is kind of the breakup album.
Right.
Yeah, but Eno was majorly into this one.
So Adrian Belew was on this as well.
Adrian Belew was one of the guitarists.
King Crimson and Zappa's guitar player.
Yeah.
So you can kind of feel a Zappa kind of infusion
here
a little.
Yeah, there is that
for
going
me.
on. Yeah. Okay, next song. Okay, next up we've got Move On. Now, from what I understand, the chord progression is based on all the young dudes played backwards.
Yeah.
Brian Eno, he had this thing. He invented this thing called
the
oblique strategies. Have you read about this?
Oh yeah. It's a thing with musicians.
Okay, so you've encountered this before.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
I have.
So explain it a little bit.
Well, basically, it's a deck of cards.
Yeah.
That have odd suggestions, cryptic suggestions, on how to break writer's block.
Okay.
Or inspire creativity in one way or the other.
Yeah. Like, for example.
Like you open up the deck, you shuffle it, and then it'll say something weird like "go outside."
Okay.
And close the door.
Yeah.
Or use an old idea.
Clap with one hand.
Yeah, stuff like
Zen Cohen type
That's
stuff.
like basically like jerking off. Clap with one hand. Go jerk off. That's a suggestion.
Yeah.
Relieve tension.
Inspire some creativity. Yeah.
So he would use these.
Yeah. Have you tried these?
I've seen them, but I've never used them.
Okay. Yeah.
I've seen
other.
Are
you afraid?
Oh yeah.
You should be.
Because a lot of the suggestions are pretty simple in my mind.
Okay.
Where if you got writer's block, you can just go step outside, take a walk, step away from
it. Of course, yeah.
Or try using an old idea. These are simple
but
things
some
that
of them
you
are
can
weird.
do. Yeah. Right.
I'm just wondering if like this idea of taking an old song and running it backwards maybe kind of came out of that. Like I'm just conjecturing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting way to look at creating a new song from something that you've already done.
Yeah.
And, of course, leave it to Bowie,
Of course,
or Eno, to come up with an idea so outlandish just to get inspiration to do something else. So,
I mean, the lyrics, essentially, it's about traveling. I think we're sensing a theme here.
well, the first five aren't the first five songs basically
which
about...
back then was the first side of the LP.
Right, which nobody
Remember
knows.
LPs, people?
It was
Some of you
side
probably
one.
don't.
Side one.
Yeah, it was the whole side one. It was unified by this idea of traveling. Of course, Lodger, the traveling
Hence
reference.
the title, yeah.
And I think the percussion is almost like a train. Like it kind of has that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got that chugging.
Cool,
Yeah.
imitative of that. Okay, next song. Okay, next we've got Yasasin. What do you think about this song? Well,
It's very raga almost at points, a little bit, you know.
Raga?
A little
Or
raga.
reggae?
Reggae.
A little reggae and raga?
Raga.
Mix
Reggae,
in?
raga. You know. I'm a white boy.
Kind
What
of
do
Turkish.
I know? Well, isn't it Turkish for, what is it?
Yeah,
For live
it's,
long? or,
wishing someone a long life. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What, you got the... Ding, 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 you know.
okay, so-
ding, ding, ding.
So this is my feeling. Okay, once upon a
Okay,
time.
now. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah. Once upon a time, like my first exposure to this thing called reggae was through Led Zeppelin's Jamaica and Blondie's The Tide Is High, right?
Uh-huh.
And then, of course, I went to college.
Or the police.
Exactly,
Police.
yeah. And I was issued Bob Marley's Legend, which is what happens when you go to college on the West Coast. And I realized, so this reggae thing existed before white people discovered it.
Exactly,
And people are doing it. And this feels like more real reggae. And then you kind of go deeper, like beyond Bob Marley. Like,
Right.
So I think he's kind of doing the same kind of thing here.
Yeah.
But it hasn't aged well for that reason.
Why do you feel that way? I mean, 'cause-
Okay. A lot of reasons.
yeah.
A lot of reasons. Now, Bowie was one of the first people who kind of like was doing quote unquote world music.
World music, right, yeah.
I mean, after him is when like David Byrne and Peter Gabriel and Paul Simon really got into it. He was kind of a pioneer in this regard.
Well, that's only when they went solo, too, by the way.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Which was admirable of him. But this just feels like it's got that kind of exotic Eastern thing going on.
Right there,
And I just got to mention the violinist. That's Simon House, who's previously with Hawkwind.
With Hawkwind,
He does a nice job on the violin.
Yeah.
But it just feels like it's going for that kind of thing, which, and now, like, probably when I, like, back then, I would have been like, oh, this is so cool, it's so exotic. But now, after having listened to a lot of, like, actual Turkish music, and understanding more about the music of the world,
right,
it just feels dated. Like, it just feels like, white man.
You see, I was going to say that, like the Blue-Eyed Blues,
exactly.
and shit
it
like
just
this.
Feels, I hate to say the words cultural appropriation, but I'm going to say the words cultural appropriation.
Well, it's well warranted.
I appreciate what he was doing.
Right.
I'm sure he had really good intentions.
And he was influenced by it.
Yeah, he's
and
like,
he wanted
hey, people, listen to this music.
Yeah,
this is interesting.
Because music
Yeah,
opens
yeah.
up your mind.
Yeah, and maybe he was like, maybe you listen to this, maybe you listen to some of the Turkish musicians I've heard.
Right.
So I don't think he came from a bad place about it.
No, I don't think he was
Yeah.
ripping anybody off or anything like that at all.
No, not at all.
But like you said, so many other white musicians have taken from other cultures and said, hey, kids, check it out.
Yeah.
And now I got a hit,
Yeah, it's...
I mean, the blues, reggae, like you said,
go all the way down the
Middle
line.
Eastern music, all of it.
Yeah.
African
It is
music.
so true. And now, thankfully, we live in a world where we can, like, get all this stuff
Right.
online.
Right.
We can expand our minds much more easily.
Right. But you know what? I got to say, if
Yeah.
Bowie was doing this, and if you're a fan of him, maybe if you were forward-thinking that way, you would branch out
Exactly. Yeah.
and seek out other types of music.
Exactly.
And not be closed-minded.
No, you're right. You are absolutely right. Okay, next song, Walt. So we close side one with Red Sails. And so we've traveled by train and plane, and now we're traveling by boat.
By boat.
Because we got red sails. Now, from what I understand, the percussion on this is kind of influenced by the motoric kind of rhythms of Noi. Have you heard Noi?
No.
They're not as popular as Kraftwerk, but they're an interesting band.
Okay.
They weren't as electronic. They had some electronic rhythms, but they're much more like just like rock, but with a kind of like minimalist and like forward drive.
Okay.
They're one of the bands that were kind of hot at that time in Berlin, and this is supposed to be influenced by that. What do you think about it?
This track?
Yeah.
I think so far what we've listened to, this is the most accessible on side one.
Okay, why do you feel like
it kind of feels a little bit more pop. The Bowie you're comfortable with here and there, you know. Okay. For a casual listener, I think they would gravitate more towards this as opposed to, earlier.
African Night Flight?
Yeah. African Night Flight. Or, or even Fantastic Voyage.
Yeah.
See, Fantastic Voyage also feels like it should be a longer song because it just has that Bowie quality where it's
like
supposed to be epic.
Building to something.
Yeah, and then it kind of just ends.
Okay,
and all the songs on this album are very short.
This is a short album. It's only like 35 minutes or something.
Because all the songs are like 2.5 minutes,
yeah,
maybe 3 at best.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like they're pop song length, but they're not really pop songs.
Right.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, because it doesn't follow the traditional verse, chorus, verse on every track. But this one sounds a little bit more, like I said.
Okay.
Like radio friendly or casual listener friendly.
Yeah.
So.
Well, speaking of radio friendly, let's move on to our next track. Side 2 opens with DJ. Talk about the song, Walt.
Well, this was the one that got the radio play.
Yeah.
And the video.
Yeah.
I remember growing up with the video.
Yeah.
I was always torn about the lyrics. Is he really paying homage to the DJ?
I don't think so.
Or,
I think he's bringing the DJ down.
Yeah, because he has no mind to make up what he plays. He just plays whatever, like a robot.
Yeah, and it's like someone whose identity is caught up in being a DJ and sees himself as semi-divine. Like like that kind of image comes in at some point, right?
Well, a lot of radio DJs were like that back then. They were quote-unquote celebrities.
Exactly. I think he's kind of trying to bring them down a notch.
Yeah.
Probably the kind of guys he met in L.A. at the time. I love the fact that the percussion and the bass, they've got kind of a disco rhythm.
Oh yeah,
right.
Well, yeah,
which is I mean,
of the time.
Exactly. I mean, this is 1979, right?
Yeah, the height, or actually, it was the tail end of.
It was kind of the
tail end of disco. Last days of disco, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This
Funky.
It's got some classic Adrian Belew guitar.
Yeah.
He was often talked about as having kind of an impressionistic approach to his guitar solos.
Yeah.
And I think you really hear that on this one. I don't think we're at the solo. Like, right now we've kind of got this distorted violin thing going on.
And keys.
And keys, yeah. When the solo comes in, I think Adrian Belew is really an interesting guitarist.
Yeah, well.
He is
Frank Zappa wouldn't have hired him
if he
wasn't.
Yeah. He may be best known for Genius of Love.
Yeah.
That's an iconic guitar
riff,
basically. I mean, how many people have sampled that one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the producer on this was Tony Visconti?
Yes, it was.
Right? Tony Visconti.
We're going to bit the guitar here. You know, it's not all over the place.
Yeah.
It's like these sort of impressionistic, like
flourishes.
Colors,
flourishes
of guitar sound. I think it's brilliant. I really like it.
And many guitarists have been influenced by by his sound, and like I said, they're more tildes, or like I said, flourishes.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
On top of what's happening, instead of just wailing on it on 2 high notes. It's more for the song than it is for impressing or being a lead guitarist.
Exactly. I mean,
which you got to appreciate.
One of the things that I think kept Bowie constantly innovative and interesting is he always hired interesting up and coming musicians to back him.
Right. Yeah.
Like he never had a set band.
Right.
He's like, Adrian Belew is awesome. I'm going to have him on this one.
Right. Well, that's why he was a solo artist, basically.
Yeah.
So you can make those decisions. And he had the mind to do it and the creativity.
Yeah.
In his arsenal to write music, and be creative all the time, and keep changing his image.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Especially on this record, too, where he's no longer the man from space.
Yeah.
He's a down-to-earth kind of person talking about normal stuff.
Yep.
No space themes, no Aladdin sane. He's just talking about normal stuff.
It's interesting you should mention that, because on this side, all these songs are kind of more connected.
Yeah.
And they're kind of more, I don't want to say protest songs, but they're kind of looking at real issues.
What I read was the criticism of Western civilization, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Which is great.
Next song. Okay, well, this is Look Back in Anger.
Yep.
What do you think about this song, Well,
once again, I think it's one of the more accessible tracks on the album. Mm-hmm. It's got that killer riff.
It's got a great riff. And in my opinion, some of the best percussion on this album.
Double time percussion, yeah.
Double time. See, I don't know these terms. I'm glad you know these terms. But yeah, it just sounds driving.
Yeah.
It's Dennis Davis on the drums here. The lyrics are like this man who's facing the angel of death, and he's been waiting for this moment because he's full of regrets and anger about his life. It's
an angel with a cough.
Yeah. That's a weird detail.
Yeah.
You've seen the video for this?
No, I do not remember the video for this.
It's like a picture of Dorian Gray.
Oh, wow. Right.
He's painting this thing,
yeah.
and like he's getting kind of like weirdly scarred or something.
Right, yeah, that's right.
It's a strange...
Like the portrait of Dorian Gray,
yeah. Yeah, it's a strange little song. But I like it. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's enigmatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This song also reminds me of some of the work that he did later on with Tin Machine.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Didn't think about that.
The way it sounds, just the way it's put together, kind of reminds me a little bit of...
Okay. That's more of like a rock and guitar riff right there. Yeah. Okay. I'm hearing that now.
Once again, Adrian Blue.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, Boys Keep Swinging. Okay.
Is it keep or kept? Oh, keep.
Keep swinging, yeah. What do you think, Walt?
Well, once again, I like side 2 of Lodger.
Yeah.
A little bit more than I like side 1, to be honest.
Okay.
That's just personal preference.
Yeah.
Not slighting the album's creativity at all. Mm-hmm. But isn't this supposed to be a little bit of a jab towards disco and like the Village People? I kind of read that at one point.
Yeah, I've heard that. I think there's a lot of interesting things going on. I mean,
sexuality.
Yeah,
obviously.
There's gender critique.
Right.
Have you seen the video?
Was a video for this too?
I love this video. Okay, I gotta describe this. Mostly it is Bowie dancing, and I love any video that's got Bowie dancing.
Okay.
But then he plays 3 drag characters, okay?
Okay.
And each one does a catwalk thing.
Okay.
Yeah. You remember this, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, now I do.
The first 2 are like kind of young, vampy women.
Uh-huh.
They do the catwalk, and at the end, he takes off the wig and like smears the lipstick.
Yeah.
And the third one is kind of an older woman with a cane.
Right.
And at the end, she blows a kiss. It is great. I love this video.
Well, once again, the artist, Bowie.
Yeah. It is just so... Okay. One of the things I've always loved about Bowie is he kind of understood that when it comes to like kind of gender types, that it's not like... there's like a spectrum to it.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like, I think part of his message overall through his art was that this idea that, you know, men are men, women are men is just kind of bogus and doesn't actually work out, you know?
Right.
Like, there's no such thing as a man who's never had a quote-unquote feminine moment or a thought or action or anything like that.
Right.
Or vice versa for a woman.
Right.
And this is the 70s. He was one of the first people who was kind of like brave enough to just like say that.
Well, this is around the time.
Yeah.
Where that was being explored in depth when it came to artists.
And he was a pioneer.
Yeah.
I mean, he was doing it way back in the early 70s.
Right, with, you know, dresses and what have you.
And today they say, let your freak flag fly. It's Bowie
but only under certain
like Bowie,
certain restrictions.
Bowie could have invented that term, but he didn't need to because he lived it through his art constantly.
Right.
And he was just...
Right.
He was a major icon and just a hero for so many people, including myself, who just felt like a little not not into like conforming with things. You know what I mean?
Right.
He was just he was a hero for all of us, which is
absolutely
one reason why we just miss this man so much.
Absolutely.
But to go back to the song, I mean, I feel like this song brings up these things. Now, apparently, one thing that they did on this one, they had Carlos Alomar, the guitarist, play drums, and Dennis Davis, the drummer, play bass.
I read that to mix it up.
To mix it up.
So they're a little out of their element, so to speak.
And the drumming is kind of mediocre.
Right.
But it's got kind of like a sloppy punk quality, which is interesting.
Right.
The bass riff had to be overdubbed because it's kind of complex.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the soundscape in the background is almost like a wall of sound thing.
Oh, yeah.
With strings, right?
Yeah.
It's really, I think it's a great song, quite honestly.
Once again, influenced so many other artists later on. They've cited, this song and Look Back in Anger. I mean, bands like Oasis and Blur and Moby have all cited Side 2 of Lodger as major influences on their recordings later on. Which is funny. I mean, everybody loves Bowie and everybody wants to go back to, Ziggy and Aladdin. Mm-hmm. But with this record, I found a lot more artists kind of gravitate towards it in what I was reading and when I talked to other musicians, when it comes to the Berlin Trilogy.
Yeah.
A lot of musicians gravitate towards this album for whatever reason. I can't really peg why, but for whatever reason, maybe it's just the fact that he took so many chances on it.
And that is why we chose it for Anti-Seminal.
Anti-Seminal.
Yes. Next song, Repetition.
Listen anyway.
Oh,
Anytime.
son of a bitch.
Repetition. Okay. So this song, you kind of get what it's about when he gets to the line, don't hit her, right?
Yeah.
It's domestic violence.
Domestic
violence.
Like,
here again, as we were saying, he's taking on more real-world issues on this side. Boys keep swinging with gender roles. DJ critique of that kind of society. Repetition, it's a critique of domestic violence. It's real.
Yeah.
And the song itself has got this weird, like, bouncy quality.
Yeah, it's almost upbeat.
It's creepy. It's creepy as all hell. Yeah. And he's kind of working in the territory that Lou Reed was.
Yeah.
In terms of just violence against women.
Right. And he also delivers his vocals deadpan.
Yes. Yeah, it's just like
he's not singing.
Objectively kind of observing the situation.
Yeah. He's very stoic vocally on this.
It's a rough song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
It's probably the darkest one on this album, I think.
It is the darkest one on this record.
Yeah. Anything else you got on this one?
Just to echo what you said about how, on first listen for me, I didn't get what it was about.
Yeah, if you're not really listening
but when you delve into the lyrics, it's like, wow, that's pretty heavy. It's pretty deep.
Yeah.
And almost a little depressing.
It is. Very much
almost
so,
depressing.
Yeah.
And like I said, once you really get the theme of it, when you analyze his vocals on it, it seems, like I said, not to sound like a broken record, but he almost sounds inhuman the way he's kind of delivering the vocal. I guess maybe to step into that character's shoes to get the message across.
Because it is from that character's point of view,
the
abuser's point of view.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's describing his disappointments in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why he's taking it out on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like in the mind of a psychopath. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every so often an artist does go there.
Yeah.
Like we've reviewed so far with certain bands where they kind of step into those shoes.
And if someone's got to do it, Bowie's going to have the guts to do it.
Yeah.
He's not going to hold back.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
Absolutely.
Next up, final song on the album. Okay, and we close with Red Money. Well, what do you think?
On first listen, it reminded me of Peter Gabriel, what he did later on.
Interesting.
With some of his solo records.
Okay.
It really reminded me of that. Because I haven't listened to this record in so long. And then you realize, oh, right, duh, Bowie did it first.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it did remind me a little bit of like Biko and stuff like that Gabriel was doing.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And he did it before this, too, because this is essentially a cover of the song Sister Midnight.
Right.
That he did with Iggy.
Right,
I mean,
with Iggy.
You listen to that, and it's the same song, different lyrics.
Yeah.
why the fuck?
Which
I mean,
they did
I
that
don't-
often, or they would
Yeah.
cover each other's. I
Yeah.
mean, like China Girl.
Yeah, China Girl, it was an actual cover because it had the same lyrics.
Yeah.
This one,
Oh no, yeah, I know what you
you know
mean.
what I
Yeah.
mean? Like this
they
one,
just
it's-
swapped
it's-
the lyrics
it's-
out.
It's almost like, Billy, why are you pretending like it's a different song? Because it's really not. What was he going? Like that's all that he changed. Like of course the arrangements as well, but it's the
Right.
same song, different lyrics.
But I think it goes back to the Eno oblique strategies thing.
Maybe maybe.
Use an old idea.
That
You'd be surprised
yeah.
how many people won't notice it. I mean,
Yeah.
a rock critic or a fan that's willing to delve deep and
Okay.
get in there and figure it out. I mean, it might be one of those things where you'll say in the back of your mind, doesn't that sound like? And you might not get it at first.
Yeah. You might not. You have to really know that album, which I don't, to be honest. It's only when I read online that I listened to
Right.
Iggy Pop and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that's
Yeah.
totally the same song. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
See, but
yeah,
I think
yeah.
nobody's thinking that outright.
Probably not. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
still great.
it is very good. It's the critique is kind of like the frantic nature of the money game is how it
Oh
sounds
yeah,
to me.
red
Yeah,
money. I mean,
yeah,
it's
exactly,
like it's
yeah.
almost like blood money.
And it ends on the interesting line, such responsibility, it's up to me. Again, it's kind of engaged with the world and its problems, like it's up to us to do something about it, which is interesting because it's much more engaged than the other Berlin Trilogy albums, which are
Right.
kind of more remote from the world.
Right.
So
it was
it-
more same thing, continuing with the man from space kind of idea.
Yeah.
Or a man removed from society.
Yeah.
Especially with Low, it's very instrumental,
Yeah.
which almost makes you feel removed from Bowie when you listen to that record.
Yeah.
Because where is he?
Yeah.
This is a lot more like we were talking about, a lot more down to earth.
Yes.
And I think that's why it's called Lodger. It's, travel. What's a lodger? It's a guy that can pay for a room, basically. He's a down-to-earth guy that
He's
has enough
lodged
money.
someplace.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he has
Yeah.
enough money to just stay somewhere overnight. He's not a world traveler. He's not a spaceman. He's not this. He's not that.
Yeah.
He's kind of a down-to-earth dude that's just kind of getting by day to day.
Yeah.
There was another thing that I read online that this album was supposed to be called a couple of other things before they decided on Lodger.
Huh. Okay.
I
Remember
read it
what?
was supposed to be called Planned Accidents.
That's again an Eno thing, right?
Yeah, an Eno thing. And Despite Straight Lines.
That
I read
also
that.
sounds kind of Eno-ish.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
So Bowie probably went, you know what? No. I'm just going
Yeah.
to call it this.
Yeah. Sorry, Bri.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this right now. No bleak strategies for the title.
Well, I think Lodger fits.
Lodger is it's a good title.
As a title
yeah,
for this
I mean,
album.
it's a good unifying theme for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the cover. So the cover, it's a postcard, which of course is fitting the theme,
Right.
right?
David Bowie, care of RCA Records.
Yeah, it's so funny. What thing I love about it is you look at the front cover, and you've got kind of these legs sprawled out, and to me it always looked like he's like dancing.
Right.
But then you open it up, and it's like, no, he's like lying on the floor. He's gotten a bar fight or something. You know what I mean?
He's an accident
Like, it's got
victim of
those-
something.
yeah.
Or something. Yeah, because he's got one hand in a bandage. He's obviously got a broken nose.
Yeah,
is
he's
what it
like
looks
bruised up. Yeah,
like. Yeah.
I like it.
He
actually.
looks like he's on a bar, like you said, a bar bathroom floor.
Yeah,
He just got knocked out in a fucking can.
Yeah.
For saying some shit
yeah.
to somebody.
I mean, Bowie's always had great album covers.
Yeah.
It's the artistic side of him, but I like this one a lot, actually.
Yeah, and it is a departure once again
It is, yeah.
for
Consistently just changeable.
from his other album. I mean, Heroes. He's this almost angelic kind of in this pose, and
interesting,
low.
yeah.
He's got the side shot of him with this orange reddish sky
Yeah,
behind
great
him. Like
image.
once again, like he's from Mars. Well, also some of that stuff was taken from The Man Who Fell to Earth,
Right, yeah,
and
yeah.
repurposed
Yeah,
on Low.
yeah.
He always had these iconic album covers. This is like, man, he's knocked out on a toilet floor. Mm-hmm. Wow,
Yeah.
that's And then the album after this was Scary Monsters and Super Creeps, right?
Right.
If I
Yeah.
remember correctly.
Right.
And that's got him once again kind of in a clown.
Yeah, it's a
makeup
whole like
type
weird
thing.
Pagliacci Michelin Man
Right,
thing, right?
right, the
From
Pagliacci,
video,
yeah,
Ashes
yeah.
to Ashes, yeah, yeah.
Right.
That's
Fun
that
to
is a
funky.
whole other album. That one,
Right.
maybe we got to talk about sometime.
But I love how he references Major Tom in that.
Yeah.
We know Major Tom's a junkie. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we like the album cover. Now it's
Yeah.
time for Gun to the Head.
Gun to
Gun
the
to the
head.
head.
Bang,
All
bang.
All right, well,
Gun to the head.
top song of the album,
Oh, shit.
Gun to the Head,
All
which
right.
is impossible to do.
It's
but
hard to
if you
do.
had a gun to your head, what would you do?
I never prepare for this part of the cast.
Well, you shouldn't. I like
know.
just the natural reaction, Because the gun is at your head right now.
I kind of want to say Red Sails.
Okay, interesting.
I want to
Tell me
go
why.
with Red Sails.
All right, that's a good choice. I like that.
Because, like we're talking about, when you used to listen to albums and you had to flip it over,
Yeah.
I feel like Red Sails brings you into side two,
Yeah. Okay.
thematically. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with Red Sails.
Cool. Okay.
And you?
Fantastic Voyage.
The opener.
Yeah, I love his vocals.
Yeah.
On that song, I like the lyrics. I
Right.
think they're really interesting. Like, more I listen to them, more I get out of them. But his vocals, they just carry me away. I love the way it opens with that.
Like
that,
we were
that
saying, it's
intensity.
very personal sounding.
It really is.
You feel
yeah.
like you're in the room with him. He's obviously right up on the mic and really delivering.
Yes.
Like I said, for me, that was an odd opener for this album. Mm-hmm. I could have seen any of these other songs being an opener and that not being the opening track.
Yeah.
Or track one. I could have seen that being track 3 or track 4. But once again, it's Bowie, and he's going to do whatever he wants.
Yeah,
And he did, and he took so many chances, and that's why we're talking about the man, and we'll continue to talk about him
Yeah.
till we can't talk anymore
Yeah,
about
exactly.
musicians and artists.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I get that. I get it. And you were saying it's probably his most powerful vocal delivery.
Yeah. Well, you
Or
know
you-
you know vocals. I mean,
Yeah.
how do you feel about that?
No, like I said,
Yeah.
the biggest thing I can say about it is it's very personal.
Okay.
And that's
the delivery.
yeah.
Okay.
And that is the salt of a singer if you can pull that off.
Nice. I like that. Okay.
You know, if you can really make the audience hear exactly how you're feeling about what you're trying to convey, that's a sign of a powerful singer.
And I do feel that in that song.
Yeah.
Completely.
Great. So he did his job. See?
Yeah. Well, when does he not do his job? He did it up until the day he died. Still hurts. Okay.
No, rest in peace.
That's right.
David
Straw
Bowie.
Man. Okay, so weakest song of the album.
Um,
Again, gun to the head. It's tough.
Right.
It's tough. Like, if you had to skip one, which one would you skip?
if I had to skip one, once again, it's not because I feel it's weak. It's just because I've heard it so many times. Is DJ.
Okay.
Is DJ.
I can, yeah.
That was the only song you knew that was on the radio from
Yeah.
this album back in the day. So I might skip DJ.
Okay. For all the reasons I mentioned, Yassassin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just because
it just hasn't aged well for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I could do without it.
musicianship wise, or just because of
not
that
musician. I think musicianship wise, there's interesting things going on
that we talked about.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, but just that whole exoticism thing, I find kind of tiresome
Okay.
now. So,
Right.
Yeah. Again, not blaming Bowie for it because it's a different era. It's 1979, but
Right.
yeah, now it just doesn't fit in for me, the rest of this album. All right, this was our review of David Bowie's Lodger, and how many times do we got to say it? Let's say it one more time. We love David Bowie. We miss him
David
dearly.
Bowie.
But we're going to move on beyond the B's. We're going to move on to C now. And Walt, what is your choice for our first C band?
The first C band out of 2, we're going to do Clutch.
We're going to do Clutch. Okay, cool. Do you have an album in mind yet?
Not yet.
All right. Okay,
But
so we
if
will
you-
think about it.
Yeah, and if you're out there and you're listening to this, if you have a suggestion for us, please comment. Let us know.
And there are many ways to get at us. You can get us through the YouTube channel. We're also on Twitter at uselessinfoinco. That's our handle. You can tweet at us. We also have a website now, uselessinfoinc.wordpress.com. You can comment there. So, yeah, give us some suggestions. We'd be happy to consider them.
Yeah, to consider them.
Yeah. We don't promise anything, but still, let's engage. Let's converse. Let's discuss.
Or we might just berate you online.
That's true. It could happen. Yeah. Don't hate us.
Right? Please don't hate us, like us. Thumbs up all the way, thumbs up.
Yep.
All right, I'm Walt.
I'm Max.
We'll catch you next time. Listen to us. Check us out.